Hello everyone. Welcome to the Yissel Missile Productions channel. My name is Steven Yissel. Today we are doing part 16 of our deep dive series into Ed Leedskalnin and his Coral Castle. So, from some of the first books that we read, we had recommended reading, which this is one of those recommended books to read. And so far, we have gone through 6 chapters. So today we will be on chapter 7. Possibly we'll do chapter 8 as well. We'll see how it goes. But thank you for being here. And I'd like to give a shout out to Jay Wild for becoming our first member of the channel. I've opened up memberships so that all of you can get exclusive content that not everybody else will get. This channel has been in existence since 2006. So 19 years. And this is the first time that I'm doing paid memberships. It's the first time I've been able to do paid memberships. The option was there before, but my monetization got pulled a couple years ago. But it got reinstated this fall, and I was just waiting for things to level out. And now we are at this point where I have exclusive content that I'll be giving to paid subscribers, where you'll get live streams at the highest tier. There's 2 different tiers, and all I'm asking is for either $10 a month or $20 a month. You'll still get all of this stuff here, like the deep dives into Coral Castle, the deep dives into the Bermuda Triangle, and the Chicago film industry deep dives, all for free. But there will be extra content now for paid membership. And that's the way that I want to do this going forward, so that I have incentive to keep going, because I do want to keep expanding this channel. And I need to get more of your guys' attention, because YouTube's not giving me a proper algorithm where it gets out to everybody. So this is where we're at now. I'm okay with it. It's just the way things have to go forward. There's many people in the creator industry that do the same thing with paid memberships, and I want to make it fun for all of you. So, considering all of the content that I've been providing, like I said, I got 19 years of free content on this channel. I don't think it's a misstep to start introducing exclusive content where I have more effort put in, more time spent to deliver you better videos, better product. So that's how I feel this will go. I look forward to seeing more of you becoming members in the near future. And just remember, this channel's only gotten me about $200 over the past year. Tell me what you can afford with that if you're living on your own, if you need to pay for your groceries. Like, it's not anything. Doesn't even cover one bill for a month in most cases. So this is what I'm planning to do going forward. The memberships are always open. You can join at any time. And as time goes on, as the weeks and months go on, there will be quite a considerable catalog of paid membership exclusive content. So even if you were to join later on in the year, that will all get opened up for you to enjoy. But as for today, this is part of our free series, part 16, deep dive into Ed Leedskalnin and his Coral Castle. We are reading today from The Energy Grid by Bruce L. Cathie. Last week we were covering all of these different plot points of UFOs being in synchronization with where these radio towers were being found, and some of them were government, some of them were citizen ham radio devices. And so we're just finding more information about this stuff, and that was just in New Zealand. So imagine where the rest of the stuff is that we haven't found yet, or what's going up today in New Zealand and elsewhere around the world that we don't know about yet. But we're finding out more as we go along. So first things first, I'm going to begin our music here. So we'll be having this background track going. We got a 2-hour synthwave mix from White Bat Audio. They've been great with allowing royalty-free, copyright-safe music to be broadcast on this channel, so I very much appreciate that. And some of them might sound familiar to you guys. Some of them I've heard on other channels, but for the most part, this is all very, very chill music. It's what I want for this channel. And every show is going to be a little different, but for the most part, we're listening to synthwave mixes. Just, I think it goes along with the material just fine. So now we need to get the Coral Castle slideshow going. So we'll get that fixed up here. I hope you're all having a good week so far. You know, a strange thing for me, both this series and the Bermuda Triangle series are starting to blend together. So they're feeling a little too similar to me in terms of content, but I think we're going to be okay here. As long as we focus on this Bruce Cathie book, along with the next one, the Anti-Gravity book, I think we're going to be okay with this series. And I can see this going on for quite a bit as we go deeper into the material. So without further ado, we will be starting Chapter 7, Mathematical Values of Interest. And if we have time, we'll jump into Chapter 8, the Earth's Magnetic Field, which I'm really looking forward to that chapter. So, again, like, comment, please do what you can to interact with the videos, because it helps get these videos out to more people, both that are already subscribed and the ones that are just tuning in for the first time. Hey Woo, it's good to see you. I see you there in the chat. Woo's been really good being here. I appreciate you. Anybody that can be here live is a good thing. But I know a lot of my subscribers watch this after the fact, which is totally fine. But, yeah, we'll be reading Chapter 7 now, so let's get that started. Chapter 7, Mathematical Values of Interest. In my earlier work, I showed the various steps I went through in my research, which eventually led me to a unified equation based on the harmonic of the speed of light and the Einstein equation of E equals mc squared. The equation indicated to me that all the physical substances in the universe were formed from the harmonic frequencies of light in various interlocking geometric forms. All matter, be it a star, a planet, or the structure of the atom, is formed by the harmonic resonance of light. A very rough analogy of how light is individualized into a physical substance from the universal matrix would be to liken the universe to a vast ocean. If a vortex or whirlpool is created in the ocean, then a small portion of it has been transformed into something quite different from the main mass. The area enclosed by the vortex operates under a different set of geometric laws. The change in state is caused by a spiraling motion being imparted by the influence of other forces. I believe that the forces which cause a vortex to form in the universe matrix are manifested by the interaction between the universe and anti-universe. In other words, the interaction or pulsation between matter and antimatter causes the creation or dissolution of substance. This idea conforms with the steady-state theory of the universe. Many scientists believe that matter is being continuously created and destroyed, maintaining a constant supply of material in the physical universe. Is it possible that light, reciprocal harmonics from the anti-universe interact with the pure light harmonics of our physical universe to form resonances which create matter? If this is so, then we must look for the reciprocal light harmonic of 6944 within the geometric structure of spherical mass formation in all parts of the universe. If this applies to the largest planet or star, then it must also apply to the spherical structure of the atom. The geometric or universal value by which we can measure spherical bodies, regardless of size, is an angular measurement. The constant factor for the circumference in all cases is 360 degrees, or 21,600 minutes of arc. In respect to the Earth, we can call the surface distance of 1 minute of arc 1 nautical mile. But the actual physical distance would naturally vary with the size of the body. If we consider the diameter of all spherical bodies to be also measured in units of arc values equal to those of the surface, then we find that the constant value for diameter is 6875.493542. This could be termed the harmonic diameter for all spherical bodies. To bring this body into being from the universal matrix, vortexual action must be initiated and the body built up from fundamental particles. We would expect some sort of rarefied gaseous stage at the periphery of the body, graduating to a more dense atomic structure until a solid body manifests, which gets much more dense towards its center. From this we see that in our hunt for the light reciprocal harmonic, which actually creates the spherical body, we must not only consider the solid body itself, but also the rarefied gaseous or atomic particle envelope around it, as this also has mass. If we take the Earth as an example, we find that many different layers extend outward from the surface, getting increasingly rarefied with altitude. First of all, the troposphere, where 3/4 of the bulk of the whole envelope is concentrated. This consists of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 0.9% argon, 0.3% carbon dioxide, with traces of several other gases, plus copious quantities of water vapor. Next is the stratosphere and the mesosphere, which extend up to about 50 miles. The stratosphere consists in part of ozone or heavy oxygen formed by electrical discharges or strong ultraviolet rays passing through ordinary oxygen. At about 50 miles, up to between 350 to 600 miles, is the ionosphere, where X-rays and ultraviolet rays from the sun ionize the rarefied air. This produces electricity and electrically charged atoms and molecules together with unattached electrons. This area contains only 0.001% by weight of the atmosphere. The outermost layer is the exosphere, where subatomic particles are found, plus a 900-mile layer of thinly dispersed helium surrounded by a layer of hydrogen that extends 4,000 miles into space. Do you hear that? Hey, Ivy, good to see you. There's a 900-mile layer of thinly dispersed helium, but that's surrounded by a layer of hydrogen that extends 4,000 miles into space. How do these people know this? hydrogen, water. Hey, Spiritual Encrypted Encounters, good to see you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. The atoms are so far apart in this area that they very seldom collide, which gives some idea of the density. As can be seen from this, if my theory is correct, hydrogen is the first type of material to be manifested from the universal substance. Then the heavier gases close to the Earth's surface. And finally, the solid matter of Earth itself. The geometric harmonic diameter of the Earth could then be extended to encompass the main mass of the surrounding atmospheric envelope to see if the harmonic reciprocal of light is evident. If we add the harmonic equivalent of 6875.493542, namely 68.75493542, to the diameter to encompass the atmosphere, we get 6944.24847742. As 6944 is the harmonic reciprocal of the speed of light in free space, it appears possible that spherical bodies are in fact formed by some sort of vortexual resonance which causes precipitation of matter. Now, I would say that doesn't really apply to everything in our physical universe here. I do believe that here is operating at a quite different state of matter. I think the stuff we see in the skies and everything else, those can be explained away by these spherical things. But as for Earth itself, we're talking about 4,000-mile layers of hydrogen at the very tippy top of the atmosphere, which could be considered water. But the molecules are so far apart, we can't really tell what's what with that, as of yet. Alright, continuing on. In the initial stages of formation are the rarefied gases. Then, as the harmonic vibration intensifies to the point that it matches that of the light reciprocal, the more dense substances are built up. Finally, at certain harmonic values, solid substances occur. If this is so, then, in my theory, every spatial body must have some sort of gaseous or ionic envelope surrounding it. I should imagine that in the case of the planets, the type of gaseous envelope would depend on the orbital radius from the central sun or star. The orbital values would set up secondary harmonics which would modify the geometric makeup of the surrounding atmosphere. It follows that all planets in the universe that have similar size and orbital radius to Earth would have the same type of atmosphere and other characteristics. Accordingly, there must be millions of planets which could be inhabitable for man. The ratio of the diameter of a planet to the height of the main bulk of its atmosphere would be 200 to 1. So you get that? The mass of Earth, the atmosphere surrounding it's 200 times bigger in terms of space. Shortly after I published my second book, I had a visit from an Australian who passed some information to me in regards to straight and curved line geometry. He was a most intense sort of chap, and I still don't know the reason behind the visit or the connections he has in his own country, but the information was most interesting. He left me quite a few notes, saying that I could make use of them as I saw fit. Possibly I can use the data in some future research, but a small portion I will quote here. Straight and curved line geometry. the globe, and the disc. We're getting somewhere here. By choosing a single universal measurement unit, we are able to convert directly from units of length to angles of geometry and back again. Taking the Earth as a globe, we see it has a circumference of 21,600 minutes of arc, or nautical miles, and a diameter of 6875.49 minutes of arc. It is stated in this theory that every globe has an equivalent disk which is equal to it. The best way to imagine this equivalent disk is to liken it to a globe which has been put into a giant press and squashed flat at the equator. What we are interested in is the ratio of the dimensions of the globe, radius, diameter, circumference, etc., to those of its equivalent disk. It is found that the diameter of the disk is equal to 1/2 the circumference of the globe, and the circumference of the disk is 1/2 of pi times that of the circumference of the globe. As a globe, the circumference equals 21,600 nautical miles. As a disk, the diameter equals 10,800 nautical miles. As a disk, the circumference equals 33,929.2 nautical miles. The circumference as a disk is 1.5707963 times the circumference as a globe, or 1/2 of pi. This is a very interesting fact because my visitor is saying that the Earth grid, as I discovered it, seems to be based on the possibility of one geometry switching over to another geometry. The idea of gravity being a force appears to be a fallacy. I think that's very important. I'll read that again. The idea of gravity being a force appears to be a fallacy. In reality, it seems to be simply a state of tension, or a ratio between the two geometries. I found in my earlier research that this geometric harmonic of 33,929.2 was one of the factors in the positioning and detonation of an atomic device. Next, let us look at measurement itself. We are led to believe that all systems of measurement, as used today, are purely arbitrary values set up by man himself, and therefore a fairly haphazard way of finding quantities or dimensions of things. British measurement, for example, was purported to be a jumble of bits and pieces related to man's own dimensions. The inch was an 1/18 of a cubit, or the breadth of a thumb. The cubit was measured from the point of the elbow to the outstretched tip of the middle finger. The foot was about 2/3 of a cubit, 4 palms. All right. "12 thumbs, or 16 digits. The digit was the width of the middle finger. So the width of the middle finger. I know that can possibly be very confusing. The meridian mile was 4,000 cubits. I'm not sure where all of these ideas originated, but I believe them to be pretty ridiculous, even though they are taught in our schools today. How many human beings, taken at random, would conform to these particular dimensions? Yeah, I agree with that. everyone varies in terms of size. So basing those units of measurement off of those things is pretty foolish. We would have some peculiar looking buildings around our cities if we standardized the construction measurements on the thin, fat, short, or tall citizens who lived within them. I consider that there is evidence which suggests British measurement was originally based on geometric concepts. If this can be proved, then it follows that this method of measurement could be used in a universal sense to harmonize structures to natural law. The first indications of this can be seen in the design factors of the Great Pyramid. Here we go. A pyramid, or geodetic inch, is equal to 1.0011 British inches. Could it be that in ancient times a pyramid inch and the British inch were equal to each other and somehow derived from a geometric value associated with the light harmonic of 144? If so, then our ancestors were scientifically advanced to a much greater degree than we give them credit for. In 1635, the author of Seaman's Practice, Richard Norwood, using a sextant of more than 5 feet in radius, made observations of the sun at 2 points which were 9,149 chains apart, and found a value of 69.5 statute miles for 1 degree of latitude. In 1671, the French astronomer Jean Picard, by means of trigonometry, was able to obtain a fairly accurate value of 69.1 statute miles. Newton made use of this value to complete his general theory of gravitation. The figure generally taken for the circumference of the Earth at the equator is 25,000 statute miles. If we divide this by 360 to find the number of miles in 1 degree, the answer is 69.444. Taking everything else into consideration, I'm sure this is not just coincidence. The value of 69,444 is obviously the reciprocal of the speed of light harmonic. A serious study of the origins of British standards of measurements could be of extreme interest, and possibly many of our history books would have to be rewritten as a result. The measure of 1 geodetic foot equal to 1/6,000th part of a terrestrial minute of arc, which is equal to 1 grid foot, was proposed in early 1700 by Cassini. If this had been the standard accepted, it would have been equal to the ancient Greek foot, which was 5/6 of a remen, R-E-M-E-N. The Parthenon was laid out to this unit. And we'll be covering the Parthenon, the 1-to-1 scale in Nashville, here on this channel. I actually visited there last year. I have a lot of video and photos to go over with that. It's supposed to be an exact replica that was made during the Nashville World's Fair in 1897. So we'll be covering that here soon. The French meter could be taken as a fairly close scientific method of measuring. The standard was taken as 1/10,000,000th part of the length of a quadrant of the meridian measured through Paris. This was established reasonably accurately in 1798 and is the equivalent of 39.37 British inches. As British measurement itself appears to be based on a geodetic equivalent, this value of 39.37 could be close to a harmonic equivalent of the resultant Earth magnetic field. Some work in this direction might prove to be worthwhile. The British and metric systems could probably be complementary to each other. Another ancient measurement of interest is the megalithic yard of 2.72 British feet, discovered by A. Thom. Last name Thom. The unit is considered to be of Egyptian origin, as it is found in the geometrical canon of Egyptian measures. John Mitchell, in his book The City of Revelation, brings out another point in connection with this unit. Quote, all over the world, the traditional units of length, area, weight, and capacity are related to each other and derive from one original canon of cosmology. And that's in all caps here. All capital letters. One original canon of cosmology. We're getting to the good stuff here, because I'm choking on my words here. Thank you, Woo. Woo says, mustache looking pristine as usual, Steve. I appreciate that. Yeah, I have my hemp lotion in today on it. I had a really bad sunburn from Saturday, so now it's more of a recovery. But thank you. I appreciate that. So I'll reread this once more. Just this one part, this one sentence. Quote, all over the world, the traditional units of length, area, weight, and capacity are related to each other and derive from one original canon of cosmology. And that's all in capital letters. One original canon of cosmology. Two such are the English mile and the unit, which now only survives in the East as the Pu of Indochina, and that's spelled P-U. I think that's how you pronounce it, is Pu, or Pew. Of Indochina. Its value given on page 358 of L.D.A. Jackson's Modern Metrology as 2.72727 miles, the fraction recurring. So we had a few books here mentioned already that I want to take note of. The City of Revelations, or Revelation. And that's by the author John Mitchell. And what was this other one here? Then we have The Seaman's Practice, which is by Richard Norwood. It's spelled Norwood, for those of you that want to look those up. And we'll see how, depending on how we go along with this, I might pick those books up to take a look at. If there's something really good in there, maybe we'll look through or page through it. But for now, we're going through the entirety of the energy grid for the next weeks ahead. We got that third book here that was just mentioned, which is Modern Metrology by initial L and capital D apostrophe A Jackson. Alright, continuing on. Without previous knowledge of this unit, its former existence in Britain was deduced by Mr. J.F. Neal, Neal, from his analysis of the intervals between ancient sacred sites, who called it the megalithic mile, on account of its ratio to the mile being virtually the same as that of the megalithic yard to the foot. There are 14,400 feet in one megalithic mile. I think that's also worth noting here. Because, see, as we move on through more of this material, it'll be good to reference some of these measurements, especially with the Egyptian stuff. And it also says here, the key point here is that one megalithic mile is equal to 14,400 British feet. So that's also the same measurement as a megalithic mile. And that'll come into handy for later. So he points out also that the ratio between the dimensions of the Earth and the Moon is 10 to 2.72727. So it's a ratio. 10 to TO, the number 2.72727. So it's, again, the key point here is that one megalithic mile is equal to 14,400 British feet. Again, we have the harmonic of the speed of light, 1440, connected with British measure. There are also mathematical indications that the unit could be connected in some way with the exponential function e, which is taken as 2.7182818. The mathematicians could delve into this area with possibly interesting results. If it can be proved that English measure was the only form of calculation that was harmonically associated with the structure of the universe and geodetic measure, then a crime of great magnitude would be committed if the system were lost to the world. Right now, the pressure is on to force the metric system on all countries, and if this is finally accomplished, the true system of measure will be hidden away and only be made use of by the initiates. This is material that YouTube doesn't want you to hear about. It's telling me no concurrent viewers right now, even though I see you all in the chat. How surprising. I believe a new system could be devised by the combination of geodetic and metric measure. The standard geodetic inch and foot could be retained and incorporated into a measuring system which has a base of 10. A basic unit could be 120 geodetic feet, which would accommodate the harmonics of 10 and 12. The unit would be 1,440 inches long, which would give the direct harmonic of light. Another way would be to use a basic unit of 1.2 geodetic inches, 10 of which would equal 1 geodetic foot. Wow, that's fascinating. So he's talking about if we were to get a new unit of measurement used around the world, he would base it on these megalithic units and also the light harmonic units. And that's what it would take. A measuring system which has a base of 10, the basic unit would be 120 geodetic feet, which would accommodate the harmonics of 10 and 12. The unit would be 1,440 inches long, which would give the direct harmonic of light. Another way would be to use a basic unit of 1.2 geodetic inches, 10 of which would equal 1 geodetic foot. think that's pretty simple to understand. A geometric figure, which also indicates a remarkable relationship between the harmonic of light, the circle, and a system based on multiples of 10, is the decagon. It says to see the diagram. I'll show it for now. We'll get back to showing everything that's on the pages here later. But this is what they're talking about here. Decagon. If a decagon or 10-sided figure is inscribed within a circle, then the subtended angles are equivalent to 144 degrees, which is the light harmonic. The angles between the side and the radius of the circle at each intersection are all 72 degrees, or half the light harmonic. Another curious fact gleaned from my geometry books is that if the side A of a regular decagon inscribed within a circle of radius r is laid off along that radius, the latter will be divided into the golden section, a ratio of 1 to 1.618, found to be incorporated into the structure of many ancient buildings. Our ancestors must have known something. So I'm going to make a note of that too, the golden ratio. One to 1.618. The next interesting figure to have a look at is the spiral. When we really think about it, there is no such thing as true circular motion at any point of the universe. This is due to the relative motion of all physical bodies in space. Although we may describe a perfect circle relative to our position on Earth, the instrument used to describe such a circle, in actual fact, would carry out a spiraling path in relation to the universe as a whole. When we think of all the different movements we are subject to, we realize that it is virtually impossible to calculate the path taken by a physical body when it moves from one spatial position to another. For instance, we would have to take into account the actual movement in relation to the Earth, the spin of the Earth, the movement of the Earth around the Sun's movement within our galaxy, galactic movement, and so on. From all the research I have done so far, I have come to the conclusion that during the formation of matter, the waveforms from which physical substance is manifest move through spiraling paths of 371.2766 degrees cycles. These cycles set up a resonating pulse which creates a harmonic reciprocal reaction to the unified equations governing our reality. The value for pi in relationship to the radius of the spiraling motion is difficult to calculate due to the multi-dimensional movement, but I believe the value to be 3.24. The value of 2 pi, which could allow for the double cycle of matter and antimatter, would then be 6.48. The square root of this figure is 2.54558441.2, which is harmonically equivalent to the value built into the polar square section of the world grid system. The world grid system itself is set up in harmony with the natural spiraling motion of the waveforms in physical substance. The main poles of the two interlocking grid systems on the Earth's surface are placed at intervals on the natural spiral, which coincide with the harmonics of the reciprocal of light. The north and south poles of one grid are displaced 694.4 minutes of arc from the north and south geographic poles. The second interlocking grid has poles which are displaced 1054.4 minutes of arc from the geographic poles. The difference in latitude being 360 minutes or 6 degrees. The two grid pole positions, north and south, fall on a spiraling curve which commences at the north and terminates at the south geographic pole. This is probably very hard to visualize without the appropriate demonstration models, but suffice it to say that the harmonic points on the natural spiral cause sympathetic resonances to be set up which combine those with light, gravity, and mass. In Harmonic 33, I demonstrated the relationship of the position of Wolf Creek crater in northwestern Australia to the world grid system. Wolf Creek crater is a massive so-called meteor crater similar to the Arizona crater in the United States. Although many scientists believe that these craters, as many others like them around the world, were gouged out by giant meteors striking the Earth, to date, no large meteor fragments have been discovered. So that right there tells us that there was no... These formations that we're told are meteor strikes are not meteor strikes. There's no debris. A fairly good scattering of a certain type of iron has been found in the vicinity of some of these holes, but the combined mass of the fragments would only be an infinitesimal fraction of the bulk required to blast out holes of such size. The presence of this pure iron could point to other interesting possibilities which will be discussed in a later chapter. I indicated in my earlier work that I believed the craters were formed by explosions from below the surface. We're getting to the good stuff here, people. This would have been caused by the instability of the spiral geometrics within the grid system. This could have been brought about by interference with the system in the ancient past. Yeah, sound war. Based on advanced scientific knowledge, all the evidence being compiled in modern times indicates that at some time around 11 to 12,000 years ago, a major catastrophe occurred which caused worldwide devastation. Some of this evidence indicates most strongly that atomic-type explosions occurred at various positions on the Earth's surface. An ancient war, perhaps? Or were the scientists of the day overreaching themselves and carrying out experiments with the structure of matter without being in complete control of the resulting effects? I said in my first work that, quote, the force fields of the grid were naturally distorted when this happened, and the stresses were set up in various parts of the system. As the Earth moved through space, various points in these areas of strain have lined up geometrically in relation to the solar system as a whole. The MC² section of the grid formula has possibly been fulfilled, and a resulting explosion has taken place with the known devastating results. End quote. That's the end of chapter 7 here. So we have two different diagrams to show it. The first diagram says, showing that all spherical bodies have a harmonic affinity with the harmonic reciprocal of the speed of light. Harmonic of the speed of light equals 144 harmonic reciprocal, which equals 6944. In geometric measurement, the circumference of all spherical bodies is 360 degrees, or 21,600 minutes of arc. The diameter of all spherical bodies in the same minute of arc units can be expressed as a constant of 6875.493542 minutes of arc. If this value is then considered as a harmonic and extended by the equivalent harmonic of 68.75493542, the resultant value becomes 6944.248477, the light reciprocal. The application of this harmonic diameter to all planetary bodies in space would account for the mass of the planet and the surrounding atmosphere. The constant of 6875.493542 minutes of arc for the diameter, and the constant of 34.377468 minutes of arc for the height of the atmosphere above the surface level, roughly 39.5 statute miles. This would extend to the mesosphere if applied to the atmosphere of the Earth. Above this level would be the ionosphere and the exosphere. So I know I'm saying a bunch of numbers here, but I'm getting the factual information out. So I will show you this in the book right now. Just give me a second here. There we go. Now, they were also saying the spherical body and the atmosphere was 200 times the mass, or taking up the space of what a spherical body would. So this is just showing the atmospheric envelope. Okay. And then the last diagram, we have the harmonics of a decagon. It says the decagon, or 10-sided figure, indicates a direct relationship between light, the circle, the harmonic power of 10, and the golden ratio of 1.618. The subtended angles A, B, and C, D, E, and F, G, H, and I, etc. each are equal to 144 degrees, giving a direct relationship with the harmonic of the speed of light. Each inner angle, KBE, KBE, KEH, KHE, etc., is equal to 72 degrees, or half the speed of harmonic light, or light harmonic. If the side of a regular decagon inscribed within a circle is laid off along the radius would be divided into golden section. This is shown in the diagram by laying off the side BE along the radius BK. The radius is then divided into the ratio of 1 to 1.618. So basically what they're saying here is all of this is just, it's all equally symmetrical. These different measurements here. Alright, we're getting close to an hour here. I know I said yesterday on Abe's channel that we'd be talking about UFOs and we just talked about a bunch of math, so I'm sorry about that. We talked about the UFOs on the last part, so go back and watch part 15. I thought we were going to be continuing on talking about the radio towers and all of that, but we got back to the basic geometry of the megaliths and the megalithic mile, the megalithic foot, golden ratio. We covered all of that here today. And it's a bunch of numbers. I tried to read them out as accurately as possible so you guys can go ahead and do research on your own with it. And that's the main point of this entire series, is for all of you to learn and go find out more information on your own. So we're going to have 2 shorter chapters next week. Because chapter 8 is only 4 pages. Chapter 9 is also like 5 pages. So that's about as many as we read here today. So we'll end here. We'll start next week with chapter 8, the Earth's magnetic field. And he starts off with talking about another book, which I actually was looking up for today's show because I was anticipating us getting into this. But I want to keep this to a little over an hour where we're at right now. But the book, if anyone wants to look into it, is Behind the Flying Saucers by Frank Scully. And the first edition, I believe, was in 1950. So I found a few of those first edition books, and they start at like $35 on eBay. If I could find it any cheaper, like on Abe Books, I'll try to find it there. If not, I'll just buy it off of eBay. But I'll buy it so that we can go over that stuff on its own. And perhaps we'll have our own separate deep dive series on UFOs. But we've been covering quite a bit of their relationship with the magnetic grid here, because this is all related to Coral Castle and the ley lines and the energy grid. So I thought we would get through chapter 7 a lot faster, but we didn't, which is okay. But that gives us 2 chapters to go through next week. And I wanted to double up on chapters as we went through this, because there's almost 30 chapters to this book. And it's not a big deal to me. I just wanted to get through this at a reasonable pace so that we're not stuck on this book until like September. Because otherwise it would end up being like that. So chapter 8 is called The Earth's Magnetic Field. Chapter 9 is Pythagoras and the Grid. So we'll be talking about magnets and the energy grid next week in full detail, along with more of these theories on anti-gravity vehicles, magnetrons, and destructive forces, more equations, but not quite as many as today. I feel like apologizing for all of these equations in mathematics here, but these are documented, well-known metrics that the ancients used for these megalithic structures, and I think it's important for us to really use this information wisely if we're looking into more of this stuff going forward. So I guess just to preview a few more of these chapters, because they're really short. Chapter 10 is The Maps of the Ancients. Chapter 11 is Russians and Germans Discover a World Grid System. So we're getting into more history of the world grid, and we're getting into more of these ancient maps. Now, it's not going to cover everything. It's not going to be a end-all be-all type of deal, but we will be getting through more esoteric knowledge here that you're not really going to find anywhere else. Thank you, Ivy. Yeah, Ivy's saying thank you for the live. I appreciate you being here. This all helps the channel grow and move forward. So, plan for 2 chapters next week. They're short chapters, but we got through chapter 7 today, and I'll try getting that into the description. So we do have memberships now for the channel. There's super chats that are open at any time if you want to gift anything to appreciate my work here. It doesn't really bother me that it doesn't happen often, but it's there as an incentive. It helps. It boosts my morale here. So super chats are less than the membership levels that I've integrated into this now, but this series will be free for everybody going forward, along with the other current deep dives. So just try to be here when they're live, and it'll help move things along. But that will be it for today. And I really appreciate y'all being here. And until the next one, class dismissed.